Howdy, howdy, it's your old pal, Tiki the Hut. Thanks for joining me again on another Too Late Tonight with Tiki the Hut. We're doing a live paint and stream. We're working on my Cult of Imhotep mummy-themed Konflikt 47 army. 500 points. I'm going to use it for a demo game, so I'm pretty actually excited about that. Um, should be a lot of fun. Hey, Scott, what's going on, man? Scott the Bot, man. I'm so glad you could join tonight. You can kind of see me struggle to paint my stuff. You know, I like to think I subscribe to the Mordian school of slop chop, so we'll see how that works out. Howdy, howdy. Hey, Scott, Sarah, Next Fit Table Talk. Glad you guys made it. That's awesome. I was just pointing out some of the models. Didn't know I had my mic muted. Just catching them up on it. So this is my demo army for Konflikt 47. It's going to be about 500 points. It's got a second lieutenant with an assault rifle. It's got her adjutant with an assault rifle as well. It's got a, they're both regular. It's got a 10-man regular squad. You got a light machine gunner, the loader, and you have a rifleman with his Panzerfaust. Everybody else with a rifle except for the sergeant who has a submachine gun. My 6 Totem Corps are actually mummies, you know, because this is themed off the mummy movies. So you can kind of see that I'm getting a pretty good little wash to kind of get them look gross and disgusting. And then the most of the points go to the Panther X. This absolute massive of a monster. It does have the Shrek Wolf projector, so it's a gravity cannon. Absolutely nasty. And you can see the scale of that Panther X compared to my beloved little Type 97 Chiha. Absolutely huge. But I'm glad you guys were able to join today. Last stream, we spent a lot of time on our Anoxina Moon. She was a little difficult to paint. First time I've ever painted a gold bikini. It was a little difficult, but she's actually pretty cool. She's rocking a assault rifle, and she's got her ammo pouches in the back. They are D6s. So D6s are used. It's played pretty, I want to say simplistically, but fast. So it's kind of like older editions of 40k, and it kind of feels more like you're playing guard versus guard. So like generally when you're shooting, if you're moved, that's generally going to be like a -1, you know. And if you're shooting at a smaller target, that'll be a -1. If they're behind cover, that'll be a -1. And, you know, anything above a 6 to hit, you have to get an exceptional 6, which means you roll a 6, then roll a 6 again. So it is still possible. Next vid, one of my favorite rules on bolt action and Konflikt 47 that really got me was the way mortars work. So the way mortars work is, let's see if I can get one out real quick. Alright, so you can see my mortar team. This is my, one of my little light mortar teams. You can see his little poof from firing his mortar. Little light mortar. People call them knee mortars. They're not. They're called grenade dischargers. I could be a huge nerd and go into the history of them, but I don't want to bore you too much. So the way mortars work, and I'm super excited, is they dial in. So if your mortar team doesn't move, like I'll say my mortar team stays here, and they're trying to hit that mummy in the back, as long as they don't move, they roll a 6, they're gonna hit them, right? And you resolve the damage. Konflikt 47 doesn't use blast templates, but bolt action does. But if you miss, and let's say you don't move and the mummy doesn't move, the next target, you don't hit on a 6, you hit on a 5. So the longer they don't move, you'll basically just kind of walk in your shots and get more and more accurate, which is very realistic to mortars, and it's super cool. And also, mortars can use smoke rounds. And smoke rounds can land and give you cover, which is super cool. Yeah, mortars, I highly recommend. Mortars are a lot of fun. They're absolutely a blast. So where we last left off painting is we were giving these guys a super nasty, disgusting wash using, what was I using? I think Dunes, yeah, I was using Argoso Dunes. Getting the super nasty, like, mummy look. It's pretty exciting. As far as being stationary, yeah, so mortars are great for pissing off your enemy's units who want to stay static. So if you don't move, it's also easier for you to shoot. So long range models that don't want to move, that can be spotters for artillery. It could be artillery. It could be an open topped tank, you know, or a tank hunter. It could be a sniper in a building. Because mortars have high explosives. So when you're hiding in a building and you get hit with high explosive, it does a lot more damage. It's much more dangerous. So yeah, mortars are a great way to kind of stop your enemy's bigger artillery or bigger snipers. Hey, Matthew, what's going on, buddy? Matthew, we're just talking about some of the rules that are different between bolt action and Warhammer 40k. The mortar rules are what really kind of won me over. I absolutely love the mortar rules with bolt action. Alright, so we're going to use Skeleton Horde. I'm going to try and, so I said I used that Dunes wash and it made them look nasty. So we're going to try and go back and hit their faces, their hands, and stuff like that. Try and get a difference of color going. When I say nasty, I mean in a good way. Yeah. I think every guard player, when they play bolt action, they're like, this is how mortars are supposed to work. This is much more utilitarian. So, interesting thing about the Japanese, we could take light mortars dispersed in our infantry squads. And they're not really effective necessarily just for dropping AG, but what they're really good for is they're great at dropping, they can drop smoke screens, and then our infantry can bonsai charge through those smoke screens. It's called the old smoke and choke tactic. It's wildly effective. usually in most lists, they go with medium mortars as like the catch-all, take-all. You know, everyone takes a medium mortar. I personally don't with my Japanese army because I like to stay mobile. So same thing, if a mortar doesn't move, they can dial in. But if a mortar moves, they're only hitting on 6s. So with my light mortar, I just keep moving them and dropping mortar rounds. If I happen to hit somebody, then I'll keep my light mortar team where they're at. So as far as the average to hit, this is one thing I love, and I will say this as my selling point for both Bolt Action and Warhammer 40k. The other thing that got me over Warhammer 40k, like the reason why I like Bolt Action and Konflikt 47, is the tables. The terrain is what changes. As the additions on Warhammer 40k have changed, a lot of people are using L-shaped and 7-shaped ruins. You know, you walk into every table. First off, they have those massive circles, I guess, for the objectives, and it just breaks the immersion, I think. And then every building is just L-shaped, you know, or 7-shaped. I'm like, this is, and it's so, I understand why it's mirrored and uniform for competitive reasons, but I don't know, it takes me out of the immersion. I like narrative games. So for Bolt Action and Konflikt 47, you have shit tons of terrain. You know, buildings, soft terrain, hedgerows, rice paddies, farmland. And so your whole average to hit thing, I don't really calculate games like that, so I couldn't tell you. I'm not a, I don't like, my brother's like that. I call him like the Neo. He'll look at a game and like see the matrix code and figure out like the average to hit thing and this and that. I don't really do any of that. I kind of just keep it casual myself. But it's hard to tell because there's so many different factors that can happen. Because if you move, what kind of terrain you're shooting through, also the size of the unit. So a unit that's one person or two people, like the second lieutenant and her adjutant right here, this is a two-man unit right here, just these two models. These two would be a two-man unit, and so therefore you get a -1 to hit them because they're such a small unit. Like if you're shooting with a bolt-action rifle or machine gun, if you're shooting at a group of 10 people kind of running across cover, a little bit easier to get a hit on target, versus if you're trying to hit 2 people crouched down, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So that's what these small teams. And these are the 2nd edition rules. 3rd edition, I don't know yet. I'm trying not to look at the rules. I'm going to wait for the book to drop, and then I'm going to read the book. I'm not a big fan of like drip-fed rules and trying to like plan and stuff like that. That's not really my style either. So I'm excited for 3rd edition, for everyone to start over together. But I'm not really like paying super attention to it. Yeah, I see that too. I think a lot. I know what you're talking about, Matthew. I've seen some people talk about it. I don't know how this new edition's gonna go. It seems really weird the way they're kind of building lists, the way they're doing platoons. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. So I'm using the contrast of Skeleton Horde. It's a little bit darker than the Dunes, and I'm going in and trying to hit their bones. It's subtle, but you know, the darkness is there a little bit. Yes. So Sarah, if you're trying to get into Bolt Action or Konflikt 47, as much as I'd love to stream to Konflikt 47 because it's what I love, it is thin on the ground. It can be hard to find a game. That is the downside. Bolt Action's a little bit more common, especially with Bolt Action 3rd edition coming out soon. It's going to be the new hotness. Everyone's going to be talking about it. So you're actually coming in at a great time. The best thing I would do, I know it's probably not what you want to hear, and I am sorry for that. I mean, you can do whatever you want, obviously. But I would just find a nation of models you like. Maybe it's because your own nationality, or your family has a history of service, or you're interested in a particular aesthetic of tank or weapons or tactics, what have you. But pick a nation you like and just look at what models you like. And honestly, I would probably wait until 3rd edition comes out and then get a starter kit that you would like. Unless you don't really care, if you're feeling kind of bold, I would recommend the best value that I know of is the USSR starter kit for Konflikt 47. You do get a Konflikt 47 rulebook, and you get all the dice and stuff like that. You get a massive army with a walker, a tank, and the tank usually comes with not just the Weird World turret, but also a regular turret. And that's something I would recommend because you get a lot of infantry. And the cool thing about especially the Russian and the Japanese starter kits for Konflikt 47 is you actually get a lot of standard infantry and riflemen in your vehicles. Here, I'll show you. Hey, what's going on, Shells of Iron? No worries, brother. No worries, brother. The show's always here when you decide to show up, man. Don't worry about it. There's no roll call, I promise. So, this tank, Sarah, actually came from the Konflikt 47 starter kit for the Japanese. It comes as a Chiha, and you can build the fancy Weird War Rivtech light compression cannon, or it also came with the bits to make a regular tank cannon. So the cool thing is you can have conventional forces for Bolt Action, and you can still have your Weird World stuff for Konflikt 47. That's why I like the Konflikt 47 starter kits myself, because you can play both games. But to hold you over, Sarah, my other recommendation, if you have Kindle or you prefer physical books, go on Amazon and look up, I'll put it in the chat, it's called Seaforth Ladies, and Going Dutch. And it's actually the novels for Konflikt 47. There's 2 stories. It follows an all-female Canadian Walker team, and it is super cool. It's got the Shrek Wolfen attacking at night. It's got mech warfare, taking on tanks. It's super cool. I definitely recommend those 2 books. That should hold you over, I think, until you figure out whether you want to jump in Konflikt 47 or wait until 3rd edition of Bolt Action. But, Shows of Iron, what we're working on right now is I'm building a, speaking of what Matthew's talking about, local friendly gaming stores. I love Konflikt 47, so I'm trying to pound the pavement and do my job at the ground level to kind of introduce the game. So I'm building a 500-point demo army. I love my Japanese, so I have plenty of Japanese models. But I'm building these. I found out the most popular units are going to be the Germans. Everybody likes German tanks. Like, this is a Panther, but with a Weird War turret on it. So I'm building these as Germans, but I'm building them Pope style, as the cult of Imhotep from the Mummy movies. So that's why you see mummies instead of zombies. You see cultists as riflemen. So that's how I'm building them right now. It's actually a lot of fun. I finished a Nox and a Moon as the 2nd lieutenant, and she's rocking a Stig 44 assault rifle. So right now I'm working on the mummies. Also, you guys are spoiling me. This is the most popping off the chat there have been. So I'm trying to catch up, trying to address everybody. So if I miss you, I'm super sorry. It's a good problem for me. I never had this many people show up. This is super cool. I appreciate the support. It actually does mean a lot to me. When I do these chats, my goal was to just try and get it like kind of like Toonami, if you remember that. You know, it was always on late at night. So if you happen to be awake and you catch it, that's awesome. If you miss it, no big deal. I just want this to be a comfortable place where you guys can show up, you know, on the weekends. you know, chit chat, watch me struggle to paint some stuff, you know, just kind of hang out. Just kind of a fun place on the weekends. It'll always be here for you. If you're either up too late or up too early in the morning, I'm here. Before I move on to the next one, I'll show off some more Konflikt 47 models. So this is one of my Japanese battle frames. So I decided to paint mine green, give him a little grass hat. He's actually carrying a one of my favorite guns of all time, a Type 11 light machine gun. Super cool. Here's a very dangerous unit that the Japanese have. This is called a Scorpion Walker. It has dual medium machine guns in the front, plus has a light compression cannon, and it has the recce rule. Absolutely dangerous. And then just recently I finished, on the stream actually, Ursus infantry. I have about 3 of these guys. Big old giant werebears that the Russians made. They will chew through infantry so fast. It is nasty. Oh yeah, thanks, Shell. It's something I do. So I do it on my normal squads to mark my my special weapons. So like mortarmen, machine guns, alternate loaders, they'll have grass on top of their helmets, and so I can easily spot, you know, who are my heavy weapon guys or special weapon guys from the tabletop. Like this is what a regular rifleman guy looks like. So the grass on top really signifies they have some kind of special weapon. When you have a horde army, you gotta get creative. So it makes it a little bit easier to spot. You know, like I've had a guy like someone actually complained about this one time when I was playing the game because he's crouched, he's not laying down. There's no rule saying he has to be laying down to have a machine gun. Yes, the Japanese put bayonets on their machine guns. You can see that thing. It's hilarious. But he's like, well, he doesn't look like a machine gunner, and I pointed out, I was like, hey, all my machine gunners, my crew have grass on their helmets, you know, so you can spot them. So people can't be like, oh, I killed that machine gunner. I was like, no, he's right there, you know. One guy didn't know I still had a machine gunner left, and he broke cover, and I was like, okay. And so I just Bonnie and Clyde half a squad as they ran across open cover. I was like, all right, buddy. One of the other things I like about bolt action, next vid, talking about that is, there's a difficulty curve to it. And what I like is that there's no pre-measuring. So, that's one of my favorite things. There's no pre-measuring. I've moved a tank up, you know, and I've like spun the turret around so I can give, you know, dual, Japanese tanks have machine guns on the rear of the turrets. I spun the turret around to give them dual machine guns, and I was short. And so I basically wasted a turn. I wasn't able to fire, you know, 8 to 10 machine gun rounds because I moved my tank too short. It's a cruel lesson to learn. There's no pre-measuring in bolt action, so you really got to be sure what you're doing. Yes, Matt's right. Don't let my little stories, you know, it's like that natural thing where people kind of lean towards drama, like, oh, beef. No, it's not that. It's just I think my negative stories are more humorous than my good ones. But very rarely have I had a bad experience. They mostly all stem from one game with one guy. But, and I was warned ahead of time. But I'm like, no, I'll play anyone. I'm super chill, you know, I'm Tiki the Hut. I'm super chill. Yeah, lessons learned on that one. But yeah, most bolt action players are, it's a good group and a lot of fun. In my local area, for those of you who don't know, I'm a military veteran myself, and in my local area, I'd say 8 to 9 out of 10 bolt action players are all veterans. So it's a super awesome community for me personally. So as far as the painting, we hit these mummies last streaming session yesterday morning with a where'd it go? That a grassy dune contrast. Here we go. Yeah, Argoso dunes, and it made them look real nice, like very like wet style of wrapping to it. It's very cool. So now we're going back and I'm hitting them with skeleton horde. I'm trying to hit their faces and any exposed bone to try and get some darkness underneath that wrap. But for Sarah, like I said, I recommend, if you do know anyone in the area who plays bolt action, I can speak from experience, a 500-point game is one of the best ways to get into bolt action. It's not too much. It's a very small amount of models. Most armies can't take any super heavy, massive tanks, you know? You know, you should only field a couple small things of infantry, and I think that's the best way to learn. But yeah, if you look at the bottom left of the screen, I actually have a slideshow of different Konflikt 47 units. If you see a model that kind of interests you and you want to ask questions about it, definitely pop the question in the chat. Let me know. I'll do my best to answer it off the top of my head. If I don't have the answer off the top of my head, I can find out for you real quick. But most of these models I know about. But it's also there to kind of like taint your interest. Like, ooh, that looks cool. Ooh, that looks cool. So hopefully you see some cool stuff down there. Somebody told me they moved a little fast, so I tried to slow them down. So yeah, I'm using an old kind of deformed brush, only because I know it can really kind of get around the wrappings of this mummy. And I'm trying to get some of that exposed bonework with this contrast skeleton horde paint. It's adding a little bit of darkness, which is what I'm going for. I just want some stuff to pop out, like some of the bones. Yeah, as you can see, all we're kind of doing is just hitting some of the faces for the bones with that, trying to get that different appeal to them. So it's not the best camera. I'm definitely gonna get a different camera. I just happen to have a document camera lying around, so that's what I'm using for right now. I'll probably upgrade my camera here in a little bit. Yeah, I thought a for those of you who've already heard the story, please bear with me. I thought having a pulp, like movie-themed evil Egyptian cults, you know, like thuggy cults from Indiana Jones, stuff like that. I thought that'd be a little bit more safe or acceptable in a local friendly gaming store. I would hate for, you know, someone to walk in to pick up their kid from playing Magic and see some Germans on the table and like, oh my god, are those the crooked windmill boys kind of thing, you know? So I tried to go with something that I think wouldn't put my because I personally don't care, but I don't want to put my local friendly gaming store, you know, in any kind of hot water because I know how tough their profit margins can be. So I was like, you know what, let me make a fun thematic version of clearly bad guys and just run them with German rules. So I would love. Last time I asked this in the chat, you guys were like dead on with my my Chaos Space Marines. So what do y'all think for the eyes for the mummies? Like purple, red, blue. What are you guys thinking? I feel like purple would be like real creepy looking. Oh, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. It's funny, I have a lot of like Japanese theming for like the intro and outro for the stream, and you know, like a lot of the other kind of stuff around, but I've yet to fully paint a Japanese model in the stream yet. I think it's like the 7th stream. I just keep working on these other little side projects. But the funny thing is, if you look real just off camera, I'll put one here on top of the tank, you can see my poorly neglected Japanese riflemen who just sit there. I mean, these guys haven't been painted in like 6 months. They just keep seeing me build new products and paint them, and they're like, am I a joke to you? Like, why have you forsaken us? It's like, you used to love painting your 15-man rifle squads. Why has he forsaken us? Ooh, Scarab Blue. Ooh, man. Yeah, that's cool too. Yeah, purple or blue. Ooh, that's gonna be tough inside. It's gonna be really cool. So the basing, I had this, but I think it's so old that it's dried out. I had this Armageddon Dust texture paint. I was really excited to use it because I love Starlin Battlemire. I absolutely love the Battlemire, right? So I saw this like also be great for like my Egyptian army. It's all dried out. I was like, no! I finally got hit with the dried out Citadel paint. It's never happened to me before. All my Citadel paint's been awesome. I've been like unnaturally lucky with Citadel paint. And then finally that texture paint was all dried out. I was like, damn. Oh yeah, so it may be hard to kind of see. Oh, sorry, getting out of the chat. So maybe kind of hard to see a little bit, but you can tell that the head and the hands are just that little bit darker. I think it's gonna be good. Before I move on to the mummy, one of my other things I always like to say, I'm not that good of a painter as you can see, but I love kit bashing. Like even this guy, this is like the head cultist, or he'll be the adjutant for the second lieutenant. And this dude came from a mixed up Frostgrave wizard box. I think that's like a Working Atlantic French head with like a little fez. He's got a Stig 44 assault rifle, some World War II ammo pouches. I actually have a blast kit bashing. I think it's my favorite part, which ironically enough, even though I love kit bashing, I have never... Oh, no, I take it back. I built one orc model. I got a flyer game that came with like a kit to build a burner bomber, which was cool. And that's the only orc model I've ever painted in like since 2007. So almost 20 years I painted one orc model, and I love kit bashing. I know, bizarre. Yeah, I mostly use Citadel paints. Not that I think they're the best, but just because I paint a lot of my D&D models a lot, and if you remember back, they used to have these boxed D&D games like Wrath of Ashandalon, Castle Ravenloft, and they were like 50, 60 bucks when they came out, but they had like a metric shit ton of models in them. So they were worth it for the minis alone. So I bought a lot of those when they were on sale. So I painted a lot of D&D models, and when I finish a model, I take a picture of all the paints that I use with it. So in case I ever need to repair or touch up or paint another one of those units, I have the formula of paint to use. And since I started with Citadel, now that's all I use. Not that I think they're the best, it's just so that, you know, I have the paints to refurbish or paint more units that I've already painted in the past. Everything matches. I don't have to worry about like matching paint hues or anything. Yeah, even these mummies, I think these are probably Reaper miniatures, I think. Yeah, I didn't even have to build these. These just came in a pack of 3, and I was like, okay. I think at my store they're like $5 for a pack of 3. I was like, okay. So I bought both of them that are on the walls. Like, that just gave me 6 mummies. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Yeah, everybody see me kit bash. It's like, oh, you're an orc player. And I was like, no, never have. You know, I built one orc model. Oh, it was fun. I mean, it wasn't the be-all, end-all. It was just a model plane, basically. But it was cool, I guess. I don't know why I don't like the orcs. I thought I would. Maybe it's the gameplay. Maybe it's because I like shooty armies, you know, like the guard. I was interested in the Necrons, but I like shooty armies, so I guess that's why I haven't tried orcs. I don't know, maybe orcs are shooty now. I know there's like Luda boys and stuff. I hear a lot of good things about the Lord of the Rings tabletop game. And actually, I'm hearing a lot of, at least in my area, y'all's may be different. I'm hearing Songs of Fire and Ice get a lot of coverage and a lot of favorable things. I just recently built a kit bash and old world army. So I think that's going to be my fantasy-based game. Otherwise, I probably would look into Songs of Fire and Ice, but I hear really good things about it. I never read the books, Song of Fire and Ice, and I didn't really watch the show, Game of Thrones, that much. So I'm not like super invested. It's not really my genre. Not my genre, but it wasn't my show of choice, so I'm not that invested. It's just like I had my old GW store manager, super nice guy. He was big into The Walking Dead, and he had that tabletop. He built the best tables I've ever seen. It was cool to play, but I didn't really watch the show that much, so I'm like, it's cool, I guess. Versus Warhammer 40k, I read like a lot of the Black Library books, so I was super invested in the lore. Yeah, same. I built relatively cheaply. I used a lot of Frostgrave boxes. Frostgrave I found have some damn good bits. So I went with a Empire Army. Instead of going full pirate, I went more like privateer, so they're a lot more fancy looking. They look like proper sailors, you know, like Royal Navy issued. So they're Sartosan privateers, and their theme is like blue and yellow and white, and they wear like clean uniforms and stuff. And so I kit bashed about 1,000 points. I have a couple great cannons, a couple units of spearmen, a couple units of handgunners, a couple units of archers. Super simple. And if I ever get around to finishing painting them, it's because they wear white a lot, and that's really tough to paint for me anyways. So if I ever get around to finishing them, I might try a game of the old world, you know? Yes, I didn't know that until I tried. Oh, sweet mother of God, yeah. It's like, I know, Mad Larkin always pops in here and he always lambasts me and tells me, like, the right paint combo to use, and I always forget to write it down. But, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. I found out white paint's not fun. Not when that's the majority of the color of your army. I started the first model and I was like, shit, I have regrets. I will show you. So part of that old world army, I used lizardmen. They're free Seraphin handgunners, and in my lore, I use them as my ship's marines because I figured who's better for, you know, ship-to-shore combat and amphibious combat than like giant iguanas. So they're my lizardmen riflemen. They're absolutely awesome looking. I'll see if I can grab some. Ooh, dry brushing. That's actually a really good idea. Thank you. I'm gonna try that. Once I finish this mummy, I'll bust out a free Seraphin Marine for you so you can see it. I mean, they're kind of neat. They're alright. So here are my free Seraphin Marines. They look like iguanas. They have like a little bit of blue because that's the main color of the army on their loincloth. And these guys serve as my my Marines and my riflemen. Pretty easy paint scheme, just like kind of green, a little bit darker green. Gave them leather gear. They're super easy. I haven't fully based them yet. I think the base is gonna be like sand, kind of like water, you know. But they were fun. They were a fun part of my little privateer army. So that's my big problem. I'm usually super into kit bashing and like theory herring armors, and I consider like, but I also want to have fully painted armies. And my biggest thing is I don't want to disrespect anyone, like a gaming store or anything like that. If they have a nice table, by putting my unpainted minis on their table, I feel like that's kind of like a slight, you know, in my own weird head. So I need to have painted armies. So that's my motivation to paint. Is painting is like my tax that I have to pay for like kit bashing a new cool army. I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna make a 10-man kill team. I was like, shit, I gotta paint them. plus what I will say is that is the cool side to this stream. I know it's may not be professionally done, it'd be hard to see things. I'm slowly learning as I go. But more importantly, I am just cutting through my pile of shame, and it is awesome. Like I said, built a 10-man kill team, painted them, built those 3 Russian bears, painted them, built all these, and I'm slowly already chopping through them right now. So I'm going to keep doing this streaming. I hope people show up. I have fun. If anyone else is having fun, that's awesome too. But I am just murdering my gray pile, and I'm enjoying it. I highly recommend it, even if you just use your phone. If you have a YouTube channel, like no other videos, you just have to have a phone. That's all you need, and I recommend just start live streaming. You will be amazed the rate at which you cut through your pile of shame. I highly recommend it to anybody. Especially if anyone's ever seen my channel, I do lore videos for Konflikt 47. That's kind of the whole reason of my channel, and that's kind of my baby. But they are a lot of work, and editing is rough. So, live streaming, I decided just to get a wild hair and kind of do it for Morty and Troop in the colors. I was like, oh, this will help me paint my models, you know? And when I finished my first weekend of it, I was like, oh, it just uploads the video? I don't have to edit anything? I was like, what witchcraft is this? I was like, this is magic. This is awesome. Yeah, live streaming's pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. There are advantages. You know, I still love doing my lore videos, and there's more to come. But oh, sweet lord, do I enjoy live streaming. It's a little bit easier on the old editing eyeballs. Yeah, that's true too. So that's a great point. That's why I'm sure you and some other guys notice, you know, I kind of drop it when I'm not doing live streams. I drop it to everybody else's just because I know what it's like, you know, and I want to chat with them and keep things going. It helps a lot. So I appreciate you guys returning the favor and kind of showing up. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, it's like our own little small community. A lot of us kind of showing up in each other's you know, live streams, just chit chat to each other, because it does help. It makes the time go by. And that's kind of what I would love for this to end up being one day. Is just, you know, those of you who have time. Some people may listen to this when they're on work, which is awesome. You know, or on their way to work, or some people are at home that kind of bust out their models and paint along. And it's literally just like I said, it's just a paint and chat. I think it's a great form of YouTube, and I'm really enjoying it. Ooh, airbrushing. Oh, okay. Alright. Mr. Fancy Pants. Now I like it. Yeah, definitely beyond my skill set. You can probably see right here I have my army of rattle cans. You know, nice, easy, flat. So, alright, let me show you my disgrace. Japanese infantry, right? Their uniform is khaki in color, right? So what I do is I just hit it with, you know, Sandari dust. And then I just paint all the other extra parts, and then I base, and then I'm done. So, it's not exactly Mortian, if you're familiar with Mortal Glory. It's not exactly his slop chop, but it's pretty damn close. And with my paints, I do thick coats. I don't do thin coats. I paint for what I call 3-foot pretty. You know, if you hold the model like 3 feet away, maybe it looks kind of decent. But more importantly, I want people to use my models, and I want people to like touch them. I don't want people to be too afraid. Like I don't want people to like grab up and move my models without my permission. But I want people to be able to be comfortable playing with my models. You know, if they drop, I'm hoping between the super glue and the thick coats of paint, it's almost like a little bit of armor for them. You know, like hobby armor, if you will. Like a 6-up invul save of shitty painting. I feel like it protects my models a little bit from like Cheeto dust and other things. So that's always kind of been my style. Because again, you got to remember, I started painting models for D&D long before I did wargaming. And D&D, it's a lot of touching models, a lot of Cheeto dust, Mountain Dew fingers, the works. That's true. Alright, so chat, I saw a little bit of scared blue, and I saw a couple people say purple. Let's pick a model. That's cool thing about paint, you can always repaint if it ends up looking like ass. So let me pick a model, and we'll try purple. What do I have? Gene Stealer purple. Oh yeah, it's kind of like staring into your soul with damnation. Alright, whoever said purple? Purple wins. Well done. I was worried it was going to look like too like Easter purplish. But oh no, purple's kind of legit. Also, I kind of feel like, you know, the royal color purple, Egyptian dynasties. You know, I think that's also kind of a thing at work here. Once again, chat to the rescue. And you guys are like 2 for 2 on these things. Actually really creepy looking with purple eyes. That one kind of looked at me and it felt weird. So, what kind of effects are you getting with your airbrush, if you don't mind me asking, Shells of Iron? Are you liking the effect? Is it easier to do like complex camo patterns? Do you get more of an even dispersal than trying to use like a rattle can? Like, is it worth getting into, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask, I guess? Oh god, Sarah, you're not kidding. They look creepy as shit. Like, if you're familiar with painting models, and you've ever seen like when you get like 2 or 3 colors and they start popping, you can actually like kind of see their face. Yeah, once you put eyes on these dead guys, they're actually really kind of creepy looking because they're just kind of like pointing with their mouths open. Yeah, purple is a damn good call. Chat, you guys are awesome. Oh, so damn creepy. Hey, hey! This is my favorite shovel-wielding murderer. What's going on, Mr. High Fleet Thanatos? Yeah, plenty of people from the MG community, and plenty of people who like Shells of Iron and Next Video who put up with me, you know, perusing through their chat section while they're trying to get paint and bothering the hell out of them. They're nice enough to come by and chat with me, which I appreciate. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The lower voltage, yeah. But hey, while I have you guys here in chat, for the shorts for my Konflikt 47, I plan on covering my next, I guess, order priority is covering all the Rift Tech or Konflikt 47 units that are actually come in the Konflikt 7 starter boxes. I thought that would actually be kind of a good idea. But then once I finish with that, priority of the videos that I do for the shorts to cover all the Konflikt 47 units, it's going to go to the chat in these channels. You know, I have a lot of people who keep showing up, you know, day after day, which I appreciate, you know. So I want you guys to kind of have control over what videos come out next on the channel. I think that'd be kind of cool, you know. I can tell you the next video, we'll finish up the German starter box, and it's going to be the Zepanzer 4 X variant with the gravity well cannon like this Panther X has. But obviously it's the Panther, so it's kind of more of a bad B, you know? Yeah, we already have the Spider Panzermech, the Spina, and we already have the Totencore, the zombies, and that's what comes in your German starter box. You get a Panzer IV with regular turret or the gravity cannon, the X variant. You get a handful of Totencore zombies, and you get a Spina mech, which you can either run it as the open top with the light anti-tank gun and auto cannon, and it has flak, or you can run it as the Flame Spina. It'll be closed top and I'll have a vehicle-borne flamethrower. I'm telling you right now, I've seen it used once against the Russians, and it was nasty. I watched a Russian conscript squad basically get immolated. it was nasty. So one of the benefits, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the lore, kind of like how GW used to do. I'm not shitting on GW, but how GW used to do, where the lore kind of defines why things are on the tabletop. and it makes sense. So the reason these walkers and panzer mechs, or I like to call them vertical tanks, the reason why these are starting to be used more in Konflikt 47 over their tank counterpart is these are still used in open country, but for urban warfare they like to use walkers. They have better visibility, but in the rules, walkers have overall armor. A lot of tanks will have, armor in the front, armor on the sides. They'll have a weak spot in the back or a weak spot on top, right? Walkers don't. They're overall like 7 armor all the way around, no weak points. So when you're talking about military operations in urban terrain, or what we call mount, or urban combat, you'll put some guys in a building that pop around the corner and hit a tank right in the ass with a bazooka. They'll try and get those favorable shooting positions on a tank. It doesn't work with walkers. I mean, you can try and shoot from the top of rooftops, from the side of the rooftops. The armor's the same everywhere. So in the books, you start seeing walkers be used more for close combat inside cities. And the rules reflect that with the overall armor. Oh yeah, these purple eyes are popping. It's definitely the third color that I needed, besides the base. Yeah, and walkers, not always, but usually they take up your armored car slot, so it's kind of a tough choice depending on what your faction is. Like I said, the overall thing that sells me on Konflikt 47 and bolt action is your models can go back and forth. That's something I love. Like I can run a Type 92 tankette. I can run it in a Konflikt 47 game. It's just as effective, So that's always kind of cool. It's gonna sound like I'm throwing rocks. I promise I'm not. But your models don't really get legend. They're not gonna be like, oh, that's no longer a thing. It's a thing. Very very few models get dropped between bolt action to Konflikt 47. And even then, you can usually talk to your opponent, and they're like, "Oh yeah, if there's bolt action rules, no worry, you're good." Oh, that's a super good question. They they can be. One thing you'll run into, and it's kind of a good thing, they can be expensive because they're a lot more modular than tanks. And hold on while I have a little like nerd moment over here. That's the super cool thing about walkers, especially if you look at it and think about it. Like for example, I can run this guy with just the machine guns and no tail. I can run him with the tail with a light anti-tank gun, or I can pay the points and use the light compression cannon. There's different advantages either way. And that's something cool you see with walkers, particularly when you run into like the Allied Grizzly Walker, which is basically a vertical Sherman tank. There's a whole bunch of different versions. There's like the Bruin, the Kodiak, and what they are is they have different specialities. They just start taking off arms and swapping them with guns. It's kind of like Gundam, basically. You're like, I'm just gonna put another good example. The Germans, they took their medium mech and they gave it to the Japanese. The Japanese like, oh, this is cool, but we don't need this like loading arm. Like you saw from like Aliens, where Ripley used it to grab that lady, like that weird kind of like power loader arm. So they took that off. Like, we're in jungle warfare. So the Japanese slapped a buzzsaw on it, and they're like, oh, we don't need a large anti-tank gun because we fight in the jungle. It's hard to see, but hey, rockets work great. So let's put rockets on top of our mech. So a lot of the mechs, they can be expensive because they'll have a lot of weapon customization options. It's kind of like a nod towards like Mech Warrior. It's like, oh, here's your mech. How do you want to equip it? They're a lot more modular than standard tanks. But points-wise, they reflect what they are. So light walkers are generally like armored cars. Medium walkers are tanks, and then heavy walkers are usually there as either artillery or for mech killers or heavy tank killers. The points cost is about equivalent between the class of walker and the class of tank, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's a good answer. I'll put the link in the chat. One of the best ways to build an army, either for bolt action or for Konflikt 47, using Easy Army. Yeah, that's where I go to like do a lot of my list building. It's funny, you'll see it, they still spell it with a C. Konflikt 47 is spelled with a K, but a lot of people misspell it, and it's totally cool. It's just something funny to kind of see. But, yeah, and with the walkers, it's a lot more, there's no uber choice, there's no, like, I say this, because I'm not a competitive guy. There's not a lot of meta choices for walkers, they're very situational dependent, you know? Are you going up against Horde of Infantry? Take the one that basically has a nose full of 50 cals. You know, are you going up against enemy walkers and armor? Take the one that has like a heavy rail cannon, you know? It's very situational. Well, those of you who are joining me late, I hope you get sleep, because I definitely won't, because these mummies are creepy as shit with these purple eyes. So thank you, chat, for that one. You can even see it all the way over there. The eyes almost like glow. They're creepy as shit. So now I have that reoccurring nightmare. Me and the VA, thank you. Great job, though, man. They look awesome. Yeah, those of you who are on the Eastern Standard Time and it's like 3 in the morning, yeah, this is the mummies are now nightmare fuel, so that's actually awesome in all ways. All right, so you've seen the mummy movies. This is my version of a Nox and a Moon. It's not perfect. This was one of my mini D&D models. I think it's supposed to be like an evil Jasmine or like a belly dancer or something. But I figured that'd be the best way. I know she had like gold skin and like a painted thing. I'm not that skilled. So I gave her just red robes, gold bikini, and gold adornment on her armor. Gave her the leather ammo pouch in the back, just to like things to be somewhat realistic. Yes, I know a golden bikini is not realistic, but bear with me here. Gave her an assault rifle, you know. So now, I think what I'm going to do, before I even start on her adjutant, usually I'm a batch painter, so I paint like 5 models at a time for like big 15-man squads. But I do like one example model, so I think I'm going to grab, I know it's kind of the more boring one, but I'm going to grab a regular Colt Rifleman. I think this is who I'm going to paint, see how I want the paint scheme to look. So it's already looking like we're going to give him maybe dark red uniform, a bright red scarf. We're going to give him a leather pouch there, leather bandoliers, and probably leather shoes, and wooden rifle, silver on the mag. Oh, easy peasy. Sounds kind of dumb, but one of the best ways to get into Konflikt 47, Matthew, is if you already play bolt action, you're already there. You have like 80-90% of your army. All it takes is just like one walker. Like, someone asked me, they didn't like any starter kits. So like, hey, what's it? Because I hate when I ask a question, someone gives me the answer that I know is like the correct answer. It's not what I wanted to hear. Like, I was asking about kill team the other day, and I was like, hey, if I wanted to build a kill team with just 8 Necron Immortals, someone's like, you don't do that. You buy the actual Necron kill team kit. I was like, thank you. Yes, fair enough. But someone asked me, like, hey, I don't like any of the starter boxes. You know, I have the dice, I have all the stuff. How do I build, or what's the fastest or easiest way to build a Konflikt 47 army? And so I asked them what kind of points they're looking for. They're like, hey, I'm looking for 1,250 points. I was like, oh, it's super easy. So I pointed them towards the British paratrooper box, which is also the Polish paratrooper box, you know. So that's 1,000 points and about a $60 box. And it's got all sorts of infantry, anti-tank weapons, snipers, artillery. It's got everything. Anti-tank guns. It's got everything you could want, right? And then I poured them towards a Grizzly, which was about 60 bucks. I was like, and there's your tank choice. There's your Grizzly Medium Walker, which is essentially a Sherman on legs. So a Grizzly Walker has a 75mm anti-tank gun. It has a coaxial 30 cal. It has a pintle-mounted 50 cal. And it has actual fists, so it can grab and crush things and move things, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. For about 120 bucks, you have, which is the same price as the starter kit. You have the British Para box, which is 1,000 points easy. And then you have a Grizzly Walker, which is 250 points, and he met the 1,250 pretty easily. So yeah, so don't feel like you're limited by the Konflikt 47 Get Starter boxes. You know, sometimes it can be kind of limiting, depending which faction you have. You hear me drinking, that's just the Diet Pepsi and Captain Morgan Private Stock. Absolutely delicious and required for painting for me. Helps chill me out. Yeah, for the Japanese, they're Shibudo zombies. They're kind of cool lore-wise. The difference between the Japanese and the German zombies. So the German zombies, they can only turn their own soldiers back to life from the dead and use them against their enemies. The Japanese figured out how to turn all dead soldiers back to life against their enemies. And so it's a little bit more terrifying when, like, Johnny, who used to share a foxhole with 2 weeks ago, is now trying to chomp on your, forearm. So for my army, with my name Tiki, they're called the Tiki Terrors. So for my zombies, I actually used King of War zombies from Mantic, I think is the company name. And I found these awesome Tiki masks in a Frostgrave Ghost Arpellago box. These little like wooden Tiki masks. I put the wooden Tiki mask on the zombies, and they look pretty cool. So those are the zombies I use for my Japanese. Yeah, with y'all's help, I've knocked out my second lieutenant, and I knew she was going to be the most difficult model, and I knocked out my mummies. I'm waiting to do the Panther X. I'm not trying to tease anybody with it, I know I have it like center here. What I'm waiting for is the that Necron green paint, that they do for the Gauss weapons to paint the actual projector system, and more importantly, I have a stencil coming, and it's a hieroglyphic stencil. And so once I paint all the little accoutrements on the tank, I'm going to be stenciling hieroglyphics, the Egyptian hieroglyphics, all over the tank, and that's going to make it kind of tie in with this whole Egyptian cult army. So I'm kind of excited for that. So I'm waiting for that stencil to come in. Yeah. Oh, Oh man, that manic box, it's insane. You'll get so many zombies for so little cost, and they have a good pose to them. Let me bust mine out. All right, so here are my mantic zombies. You can tell they got the little tiki mask, little kind of grass skirt. You know, they got the little goos and guts coming all out of them. And I use Startle and Battlemire. So for my horror units, which is what the rule is called, horror, I give them these brown bases with mud. That way it's kind of easy for me to look on a tabletop and see what's a monstrosity or like what's a horror unit versus a regular unit. And they have good poses to these little zombies from Manic. You need to build zombies, the way to go. Like the little tiki mask kind of cracked me up. It may be hard to show, but you know, keep in mind, hopefully people aren't upset, I'm just being honest. These are Japanese riflemen, so they're not exactly the tallest riflemen in bolt action, you know, but there's the scale between the zombie and the rifleman, so it's good enough for government work. I'm sure if you have like a standing tall German guy, I'd probably use that on. All the Japanese sculpt for the riflemen, they're all like crouched and huddled down because they're usually banzai charging. So. So ironically, one of the best walkers I've seen on the tabletop. I don't have one. I need to get one, but surprisingly, one of the best light walkers is the Russians. Their Cossack walker, for whatever reason, I think he just has like an autocannon underslung. It's just like a chicken walker with an autocannon between the legs. That thing is deadly. I've seen it just absolutely wax units left and right. I was playing a 2-on-2, and I was playing, you know, of course, as Japanese, so I was playing with a German. And his Shrek Wolfen got caught out in the open by a Cossack Light Walker. It's gross. Alright, take it easy, Sarah. Hey, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Hopefully I answered some of your questions about Konflikt 47. But I super appreciate you showing up in the chat. It actually means a lot. Hope you have a great day. So going as my normal saw, usually I like batch painting. I like painting, you know, all one color on all the infantry models at one time. But I've never painted this uniform before, so I need like a template model. So I'm gonna finish this rifleman all the way, and then I'll use them as a template to finish the others. yeah, those of you who've seen it, if you have, I appreciate it. But if you checked out the newest lore video, it's covering the Far East Asia theater from 1944 to 1945. A lot happened. It's actually one of the longer lore videos. But the next one coming out, so in the first book it covers the 4 theaters. You have Western Europe, Eastern Europe, basically the Middle East, and you have Asia. And so I broke it up between, you know, stopping at 1945, and the next video I'll do from 1945 up to 1947. In the later books, they open up new theaters. So one, they start talking about Finland and some other ones. So I'm debating how I'm going to do the next video. If I want to do Finland all the way from 1944 to 1947. I'm thinking for the next lore video, I'm going to go back and do Western Europe from 1945 to 1947 to catch you up that way. And in the newer books, they also start covering from January 1947 to June of 1947. So it'll be more to kind of fill in, I guess. So a lot of these cultists, a lot of these bits, they're a mixture of Wargame Atlantic. I mean, I love Warlord games, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to kit bashing, I use what bits I can find that I think are cool. So these guys are a mix of Afghan warriors for the bodies and mostly for the heads, and for the arms and weapons, a lot of that comes from the Great War. It's a French infantry box from Wargame Atlantic. That's where I found a lot of these cooler, like, Lebel rifles. And because of the French Foreign Legion, Lebel type rifles were pretty prevalent in Egypt and around that area. Yeah, so I figured out that's where they save their money, is they don't include bases. And one of the mistakes I made, as you can tell, Warlord games or bolt action bases are flat. And I happen to have a shit ton of these bases from like kit bashing 40k stuff. So I'm like, not a huge deal. Not like a game changer. So put them on these bases. These are the bases I have. But they're good for bits. And same thing. Frostgrave boxes, when you can find them, the bits on those are great, especially their wizard ones. Their wizard boxes are expensive. It's like 18-20 bucks for 8 models, and you see that, you're like, that's like GW prices. But yeah, it's 8 actual models, like torsos, that can be built, but it's like 20 heads, like 50 arms, a whole bunch of like accoutrements, like, you know, familiars and birds and bottles and bones and all sorts of stuff like that. So if you're looking to kit bash your own model for like the old world, or if you're looking for a box that has really good bits, look at the Frostgrave wizard boxes. Anytime Frostgrave has the number 2, that denotes females. So like the Cannon Fodder 2 are female ones, Wizard 2 are female wizard bodies. So it's a really good source for bits if you're not always ordering from like 3D printing and stuff like that. With ordering from 3D printers, it's just hard to get the scale right. I've been burned too many times, so that's why I still kind of just buy boxes. I do buy from 3D printers, they're generally people I know from like the Morning Glory community or some other people. Just random people on Etsy, they'll be like, yeah, it should work, yeah, you're fine. And then it gets there and I'm stuck with this model that I'll never use. I'm like, So now I've learned to just kind of either work with people I know, or that's one thing I do like. A couple companies do this. When they sell boxes of models, included in the pictures on the website will be pictures of the sprue. So you can literally look and plan out what you can get out of that box. Like, hey, how many, like, I need a lot of left arms. Like, I have right arms holding guns, but I need left arms. You know, because bolt action and Konflikt 47 are WYSIWYG. So if your guy has a rifle, he needs to legit have a rifle. If you're, where'd he go? If you're not a commissioned officer, if you're paying the points for him to have a submachine gun, he needs to have that submachine gun, you know? I mean, when I say I've been burned by Etsy, I mean they didn't match the models I already had. If I was doing a full army from Etsy, it would look fine. Like, I have a Hago in one of my drawers, a Japanese light tank that I'm not painting because it's ridiculously large for a Hago. And if I just ran that tank and the infantry that came with it, it would look perfectly fine. But in proportion to the actual Warlord game models and the real Hago tank model, it's comically large, like heroic scale. Yeah, that's true, but, you know, I put my 3D printer right next to my bed when I sleep at night. It started giving me really weird dreams, and I wake up thirsty, and I just started drinking all the printer resin. It gave me some really weird, like, throat issues, so I don't know if that's something every 3D printer does. For legal purposes, that is a joke. Please 3D print in a well-ventilated area and don't drink your resin, for the love of all that is holy. I was waiting for you to put that comment in there next vid. I do 3D print terrain though, I will give you that. I do use my 3D printer for terrain. That's the other thing I'm building as I go along is, you know, a fun thing. I plan on hosting a big Konflikt 47 tournament in about a year, and so I'm trying to create all my own terrain for it, my own like fictional island and campaign and all that kind of stuff built up for it. So I spend time on models and I spend time building terrain. And when I use the term tournament, I'm not gonna lie, I mean like social meetup. It's not gonna be that serious. There will be a prize for who has the most victories. The winning nation will get like a small prize, but the main prizes will be like best painted army, you know, best tactics, most congenial, stuff like that. Ooh, yeah, I have seen those tools. That's actually really cool, Next Vid. I've seen those tools you use that you're talking about. I know the other thing I do 3D print, because it's generally lower quality for the printer I have myself, is I do print for Gaslands. I was talking about it last stream. I actually really do like I play Gaslands. I like printing out the little bits for the cars. That's actually a lot of fun. If you don't know, Gaslands is a tabletop war game using Hot Wheels cars. It's kind of like a mix of like Twisted Metal, Mad Max, Death Race. So you like put weapons and stuff all over your cars and race them with like turn-based dice and stuff. It's actually a lot of fun. Yeah, I've seen people take the actual Warthog and like put some weapons on it and run it that way. Yeah, it's one thing you can do. You can actually put a heavy machine gun, make it a turret, give it 360, and you can run around with just a rear gunner and just light cars up as you race around. That's Gaslands is probably the cheapest tabletop game to get into because it doesn't have to be WYSIWYG, so you can just run it however you want. You know. Definitely a casual and easy war game to get into. If you need like a palate cleanse from like a competitive game, you know, Gaslands is hilarious. So looking at the model, I don't want him to be all red, so I think I'm going to give him black pants. Which also kind of makes sense, you know, if you're always like taking cover and stuff like that, and you know, black pants kind of makes sense. So I think it'll be red throbes or robes, black pants, leather shoes, leather pouches, leather bandolier. That'll give me my easy 3 colors. Right now I'm just using ball red contrast. Or Bale, depending on how you pronounce it. Depending if you played Diablo 2 or not, I guess. So, next vid. How is Infinity doing? I haven't, I said I only played a couple games. I enjoyed it. I know we talked about it on your stream. It felt a little XCOM-y to me, and I mean that in a good way. But how is the scene now? I mean, I remember the models were cool. They had like really cool models and kind of cool lore. And I loved how terrain heavy it was. But how's the Infinity scene nowadays? kind of a bold choice going with black pants, but let's see how it works out. It's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it turns out. Right. Not mad at the black. I'll let it dry a little bit. See how I think. If I'm not forgetting, because I just rewatched the movie the other day for inspiration, I'm pretty sure they were black and red was the color of their cultish uniform and the Mummy Returns. So I think that's just about right, actually. Nox and Moon's in like black dresses the whole time in that movie, but I want to put her in red for this theming. Like I said, if y'all see any Konflikt 47 units pop up in that bottom left, those are pictures from the website. If you guys see any models that look interesting or you have questions about, feel free to let me know in the chat. So we had a good talk about walkers earlier. That was nice. They certainly can be advantageous, depending on the situation. Yeah, the black pants aren't back. I make the red pop a little bit. Who were the Japanese Tao? Listen here, right? They're not bluefish communists. No. So the Japanese have these. These are called they call them battle frames. So each nation has their own different types of heavy infantry. So the Americans have it's heavy armor, and they generally carry assault rifles with their heavy infantry. Same thing. The Germans are a little bit more streamlined with the heavy infantry. They carry machine guns and assault rifles. The British have some of the best heavy armor infantry. They're called Galahad suits, and they have like light machine guns attached to the wrists. They're really awesome. Russians, remember the Russians are on nobody's side, so it's the Allies versus the Axis, and nobody cares about the USSR. USSR is against everybody. So when it comes time for tech, they have to steal it from both sides. So the first Russian heavy infantry were just like old pieces of tank armor welded together like industrial suits, powered by humans. You know, there's no technology. Then they're slowly kind of incorporating it, so they're a bit heavier and bulkier. So all the other nations' heavy infantry count as large infantry for like transports. You know, if you want to put them in trucks, a guy or girl in heavy armor is going to take up more room, right? Not the Japanese. The Japanese battle armor is not as super effective as the other nations, but what's cool is it's not very bulky. So they don't get the large infantry rule. You can fit just as many of these guys as you can normal infantry. And the way their battle frames work, you'll see it pop up. They have like general battle armor, they have assault battle armor, and they have anti-tank battle armor. So the general warfare one, like for the battlefield use, they have an SMG or a light compression gun on one hand and a grenade launcher on the other, which is pretty cool. The assault ones have an SMG on one hand and a blade like a katana on the other, so they're crazy good in melee fighting. So you know when your enemy's sending Shrek Wolf in, or if they're sending like these big old werebears at you, you know you send your assault battle frames with SMGs and katanas, and they just start slicing those things up. And then they also have anti-tank battle armor teams, so they move faster and they have better armor than regular infantry, and they have Panzer Shrieks, you know, big old anti-tank rocket launchers. They're pretty good at breaking up light tanks. So those Japanese Tau were Japanese battle frame suits. There's another picture down there called Ghost Squads. You'll see them, they almost look like they're wearing biohazard suits with like porthole windows. They've mastered molecular composition. So what they can do is they can phase in and out of stuff. So they can phase through walls, phase through terrain. So where they're dangerous with their SMGs or compression guns is if you have infantry garrisoned in a building, the Ghost Squads can just phase right through the walls of the building and just murk them inside the building. It's actually pretty terrifying. I do have a short out on those guys. If you look at my shorts, there's a video out there for the Ghost Warriors. They're pretty cool. Alright, so there's his red robes done, there's black pants. Go through and hit his leather stuff, and that should be just about it for this stream. Oh, I've seen some of those in a fight, and where it gets really nasty is don't forget the British have automatons. So they have giant robots who, you know, terror units like zombies or werewolves will cause fear in infantry, but not robots. They don't give a shit. They're robotic. You know, so they'll charge these zombies right down the board, and the British will just send these robots with medium machine guns or heavy machine guns and just start cutting through them with no fear. And the Allies actually have light walkers, these coyotes. It's basically like a one person and like a big old power suit kind of, and it has like a flamethrower on one hand and a medium machine gun on the other. So a lot of times you'll see those will charge in and just start fighting the werewolves and just flaming them and shooting them with machine gun rounds. So with heavy infantry and some of these monstrosities, they'll have the tough rule, which means you know they're a little bit more impervious to weapons. You know, but anything that's like, you know, a good way to think about it is like AP1 or AP2, anything that has that little bit of extra punching power, you know, damage to it will generally negate that tough rule. So in bolt action, you didn't see a lot of use for AT rifles teams, right? Because most tanks are like pretty heavily armored, so you're not going to punch through it. But AT rifles are a lot more useful in 40k. I mean, Konflikt 47, because you start punching through these zombies and werewolves and heavy infantry. Same thing with the the anti-aircraft guns that a lot of factions have. Those 20 millimeters. Yeah, those are great to use on the ground against like incoming werewolves and stuff. So you see a lot more use of autocannons, anti-tank rifles, and heavy machine guns in Conflict 47, only because you're trying to punch through heavy armor and monsters and light walkers. So it actually makes a lot more sense. It's like the meta changing for a good, like, lore reason. And I get to use one of my favorite paints today. One of the contrast paints. I'm not really a GW shill, but one thing I will always say is amazing is this is a great paint if you don't have it picked up. Contrast Snakebite Leather. Of all their contrast paints, of all their other kind of stuff, this one is awesome. It's right up there with like the old school Nolan oil. This stuff is great. When you put these on like leather goods, like leather web gear or holsters or stuff like that, it just looks so good. It dries in a really, really good way. It's really easy to manipulate and add like wear and tear to a holster, you know, by like painting different ways and letting this leather paint dry. It's really good. Man, I'm not gonna lie, that 2 hours flew by. I appreciate you guys coming in the chat and staying in the chat. This is the most people I've ever had, and it's the fastest it's ever gone. Absolute blast. I got some good work done. I started on my mummies yesterday's stream. Today I finished them. I asked the chat a question. They said purple eyes, and sure as shit, they created walking nightmares, which is awesome. And I gotta talk about Conflict 47, which is the best part. And almost finished my template model for the cultist. So that works pretty well. Yeah, look at those eyes. It's absolutely terrifying. What about my... You'll have to explain what you mean by that. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Not sure if you're inquiring if I was sired by two fathers, or if you're meant to say the baddies. Oh, and while you're typing what you mean by that, next vid, are you streaming right after this? Oh, ha! Oh, man. Now I feel bad. What a great joke, and I didn't get it. I'm an asshole. I'm sorry. That is a solid joke, and I missed it. That was 100% on me. No excuse on that one. That was a damn good joke, and I missed it. Oh, I'm upset. Myself. But, are you streaming? Next vid? Shame, I brought the dishonor on me, on my family, on my cow. But yeah, if you're streaming right after this, anyone who's watching this, if you want to see another person kind of stream, you can pop right over to his channel. He does a good job. I think he's working on some Infinity or Warhammer 40k models. A lot of blue. If you like blue, that's the way to go. Not a lot done, but a little bit. A little bit. Ain't mad at that. Yeah, I got some work done. And I got to chat with some people. That was actually a lot of fun, too. Good times. Slowly working away at it. The basing will be fun to do. I'm excited for the basing. Zombies are just about done. I may hit them with a different kind of shade. Kind of get some more gross parts going on them, but that's really it for that. Tank's going to be a lot of work. I'm excited for the tank. So this will probably be a couple weeks worth of streaming. But once this is built, I'll have another 500-point army. And I'm not going to lie. This 500-point army is going to beat the hell out of my Japanese 500-point army. So it'll be an easy demo game as they stomp the living hell out of me. It's like, hey, this game's fun when I have a giant panther with a gravity cannon. So the way the gravity cannon works, in case you guys didn't know, it has two effects. One, the heavier armor value you shoot with the X gravity cannon, the more damage it does. And the other cool side of it, if you shoot infantry, not just heavy infantry who wear armor, but if you shoot anti-infantry with the gravity cannon, it's still going to do damage, and it also slows them down, which is genius. So yeah, the Germans are rough at Konflikt 47. The Germans are not fun to fight against. All right, well, like I said, all you guys, next vid, Matt, I know, Shells Iron, I knew you were in here for a while, asking a lot of good questions. I appreciate it. I know Sarah dipped out a little bit earlier. I had High Fleet of Theros pop by. I had Scott the Bot, the first man in. I appreciate all y'all for showing up. It really does mean a lot when you guys do it, and you guys hit the nail right on the head. You get a lot of painting done when you have people to chat to. It kind of flies right by. Definitely next vid and Shells of Iron, you know I'm going to be in your chat too, so I appreciate the support. I'm going to be right back there supporting you guys too, and I really enjoy this. Oh, Matt, you have no idea, with mortars and machine guns, yeah, it can really mess up your charges, and you can get caught out in the open, and it hurts, so it's a funny little mechanic to think about. But yeah, this will be it for me for this weekend. Next time I'll live stream is going to be Saturday morning from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Eastern. We'll be working more on our Cult of Imhotep army. And other than that, in the meantime, on Wednesdays, I do drop more Konflikt 47 videos. So this week will probably be a short, just because I finished that big long lore video on the Pacific last week. So if you like Konflikt 47, you learn more about it. There's some channels out there who do great bat raps. I link to them at the end of my videos, but I mostly cover the lore. So if you want to see the lore, there's plenty of that on my channel. You guys feel free to check that out. And other than that, if you guys are headed to bed, I hope you sleep well. And if you guys are awake and running around at work like I know Matt is, I hope you guys have a great day, because you definitely earned it. But one of the big things is I hope you guys, stay hydrated and stay safe, and ultimately don't forget to relax. Like I said, I appreciate you guys joining me on Tiki Time, and I will see y'all next week.